Yes, welcome back. Welcome back to our class. We are working on the management functions. So far, we've done the first management function, which is planning. We've done organizing. So I want to combine the other three functions of management. That is staffing, leading or directing, and the controlling function. This is Dr. Linda, learning with Dr. Linda. So far, it's been an amazing time. I'm hoping that we are learning and that we are able to appreciate the knowledge that we are gaining from these lessons. So I'm going to take you through the other three functions of management. Yep, the staffing function. We've already talked about the organizing function, and in the organizing function, this is where we introduced the people. We introduced the people in the sense that who are the people to fill in the different positions and to actually do the various tasks that have been identified in a business entity. So how do you get those people to fill those positions? One way in which you get people to fill those positions is through this function of management called the staffing function. So the staffing function, this is where you are a manager. You have the role of choosing the right people with the right competencies, with the right skill set to be able to do the tasks that you had identified in the organization structure or in the organizational chart. So how do you do the staffing? So these are the activities that are involved in the staffing process. So the first step is to identify manpower requirement. Remember, we are going through the 5 functions of management, and we've talked about the planning function, where you understand why are you doing what you're doing, and what objectives do you have. From understanding the objective you have as an organization, then you need to do the organizing, where you identify the tasks that are involved for you to actually do that objective or to be able to fulfill that goal that you have. So within the organizing function, the organizing function, we say that one of the things is to identify the activities that can be consolidated together as tasks, so that now you can organize them based on different functional areas or different product areas, etc. And we saw, you can organize by functional or product or geography, etc. Now, once you have finished that space of identifying an organizational chart and you have different positions that require filling, this is where now the staffing process starts. You start by identifying the manpower requirement. What is required for you to fill those positions? So this is where you will identify the job description, and write out, what are some of the qualities you're going to be looking for to get someone who's going to fill that position. These qualities could be education, the experience required, probably the age, maybe if you're doing affirmative action, the gender, or, you have to have the manpower requirements that are required so that that role is actually filled. So once you've come up with this job description or the vacancy, that you would wish to be filled, then you go to the next step, which is to recruit. Now, in the recruitment, you make a decision whether you're going to do in-house or you're going to actually get people from outside. So if you're doing in-house, meaning you're recruiting from within, you might not need to do a lot of advertisements or put that as an advert on the newspapers. You just need to inform the departments that you have a vacancy and people can apply from within. But most of the time, people actually do that external recruitment. And this is where you advertise, you put it as a newspaper on the newspaper article, maybe a job recruitment site. Probably you engage an organization that does recruitment to actually get for you the right personnel based on your job description. Now, once you've gotten this pool of people, then the next step, of course, is selection. And of course, you're selecting based on your needs and whatever, these people whom you're recruiting or whom you have interviewed are bringing on the table. So, of course, there's a lot of criteria that is used for you to identify the right match, who is the right person for the job. And then once you've identified that person, then you do the placement and orientation. So some organizations can give you a probation period of like 6 months. And in those 6 months, they're trying to understand you. Maybe they're trying to understand whether you're the right candidate for that job. And at the same time, they are orienting you. Orienting is where you've done something like on-job training so that you can be able to also have the skill sets that are required for that organization on the job. Then, of course, based on the gaps that they find, they could provide some trainings and developments. So this training and development is part of the on-job training that I was just telling you about, so that now you can be able to learn how to work within the organization and maybe acquire the skills, the right skills that they need. Of course, now the next step is to appraise, performance appraisal based on how you have worked, based on your attitude and your values and your contribution. Then, of course, there's the performance appraisal. This is something that every organization, most of the organizations, there's what you agree to in terms of the job description. And then there's performance contract. Most organizations might ask you to fill in a performance contract. And in the performance contract, this is where you agree on to what kind of key performance indicators that you're going to actually ensure that you fulfill. Now, once you have filled that, after maybe 3 months or 6 months, depending with an organization or even annual, organizations can do a performance appraisal. So the performance appraisal, this is where they pick your performance contract and the key performance, and then they identify the key performance indicators, and they have a criteria in which they compute to actually see whether you have matched what you promised to match. Now, based on that, if you've done a good job, definitely you have a promotion, or it encourages more of career planning. Maybe a human resource manager might decide to do some job rotation or some job enrichment where you're given extra jobs based on your performance and the skill sets that you're bringing on board. You could also be appraised in a negative way, meaning you're demoted or you're even fired. But assuming that you are a good employee, of course, that you're going to now have a promotion and a progressive career planning, then definitely there's also the compensation. And the compensation could be in terms of monetary gains, salary, bonuses, but rather than just compensation that is extrinsic, we say that is extrinsic motivation. We also have the intrinsic. What is the organization doing so that they can keep you motivated? That is one of the jobs of the staffing function. Now, the staffing function is highly related to the leading function, because as a human resource manager or as a manager in general, you really have now to ensure that these people you have brought on board are people who can work for you willingly so that you can be able to achieve the goals and objectives that you set for your organization. So for you to be able to influence people, because leadership is about influence, for you to be able to influence people to perform their assigned tasks, remember, planning objectives, we organized some tasks in the organizing role, we have staffed. So these people whom we have staffed so that they can perform their assigned tasks that we identified in the organizing function in a willing manner, efficient and effective, then you need to have some power. You need power. And sometimes power is depicted in a negative way, but power is what runs the world. Now, when we think about power, it's that ability to influence people, to alter their actions, behaviors, and belief systems. And we have 5 sources of power. And within these 5 sources of power, they can be classified into 2. Well, you have personal power or position power. Personal power is the power from within. It's intrinsic. People are influenced by you not because you have a position, but because maybe you're very charismatic, probably you have a lot of expertise in that field, probably you have high levels of networks and association, something to do with who you are as a person, the personal attributes that you have that make people want to listen to you. We have so many leaders who have this kind of personal charismatic power. Sometimes they use it for the good, other times it can be used in a bad way. But the most important thing is to know what kind of powers do people have so that they can influence people to actually act. Position power, there are those that are based on the position. So it's more like authority. Position power is like being given an authority. So like when we're talking about the organizing function and you're talking of the line and staff authority, this is what you're talking about, that this person has a designated position that either gives them the authority to actually make people do stuff, to make people engage in an activity, to participate in an activity. So these are the types of power. We have expert power, we have referent power. Those 2 types of power, would classify them as personal power. But also the other types, association power, charismatic power. Those are power that are bound with the individual. And we're going to be seeing the types of power shortly. Now, the other sources of power are those that are from a position perspective, in the sense that the position that you've been designated can give you legitimate power. When you are called the human resource manager, or you are the technical person, or you've been given some authority in terms of the organizational chart to be able to command people to do that which you want them to do. That is legitimate power. Reward and coercive power. These are powers that are mostly used because of the position. So you can use reward power where you give incentives, or something we call carrot and stick. So reward is the carrot, coercive is the stick. So being in that position that you are in, people do that which you want them to do because probably they are interested in the rewards that you're offering, or they are afraid of the punishment. But now, understanding the sources of power, it's also very important. We also understand the different types of power. Now, we have those 3 specific, actually 4 types of power. And I'm going to start with the power over. If you see there's the power over or violence. Now, the power over is an attitude that some people have, that power is finite. And some people have it and others don't. So it's more like power over people in terms of coercion, in terms of you forcing them to do things unwillingly. So you have power over them. Then we have power with the people. So power with the people is where two individuals who have, let me talk about power from within, who have enough power from within, or the personal power we're just talking about, the self-confidence, the trust, the the emotional intelligence, all those personal attributes that make somebody have a sense of know-how, a sense of self-knowledge that can influence other people to act. So when you have one person who has, you as a leader, if you're able to get from within that power from within, then you can be able to empower those that you lead so that at the end of the day, you're not having a power over them, but actually you're having a power with them. And sometimes, if this person who is being led is not empowered enough, there's a likelihood of abuse happening. And this is where we have the power under. And sometimes it is the leader has, of course, the role of ensuring that they empower their subordinates so that they can put them in a space where they have power with. But it's not all the time that it is the leader's role. Sometimes the subordinate or the person who is on an equal grounding with the leader, they might have very little power within them, where they have very little trust, low self-confidence, and that could make them assume the role of a power under, So it's very important, even when you're being led, to ensure that you also empower yourself so that you even the power dynamics. So there's another power that we call power two. And power two, just like power within, is the power to act. You have the power to do something. So as a leader, for you to ensure that people are actually doing the work and doing their obligations, it's very important that you are able to bring within them the power within, each of us to have their power within so that we can work with each other, that is power with, so that we can be able to change our organizations for the better, that is power to change. So these are some of the differences between the different types of power, the power over, the power to, and the power with, and then there's the power within. So power within is individual. It is you feeling comfortable in who you are, and because you're comfortable in who you are able to share the power. Power to and power with is also shared power between two people who are secure enough to share their power. So you share power by trusting and empowering. The power over and the power under is where now there's that power imbalance. And what we advocate for is that as an organizational manager, that you encourage the power within, power to, and power with. So what is your role as a leader? After you've understood as a leader that you have the power to make people do something willingly because of how you exert the power around the organizational dynamics, one of the things that you need to know is that you have a role to motivate or to inspire people to take action. And inspiration starts with yourself, how you conduct yourself. Do you actually believe in what you're doing? Because if you don't believe in what you're doing, if you don't believe on the outcome, it will definitely show and it will not inspire others to act. Communication. Do you communicate persuasively, convincingly, and provide information that would make people want to participate if it is in terms of change management? So ensuring that you're passing information in a manner that is persuasive, and also in a manner that the means through which you're sending your communication should be credible enough to have people want to participate in what you're doing. Coordination. It is the role of a leader who is also a manager, but a leader uses more of the personal power. A manager relies mostly on the position power, but you can have a manager who has leadership attributes, and also you can be a leader and be given a position of management. So your role is that of directing and coordinating efforts, especially when it comes to the organizing function and the staffing function, making sure that you place the right people in the right tasks. Participation, allowing people to have responsibility, delegating some of the authority. When you're able to delegate some of the authority, you're building empowerment, you're empowering your teams. When you empower your teams, you have what we call power with. And when you have power with the people, then it becomes very easy to achieve most of your goals in an efficient and in an effective manner. And then, of course, the role of the leader or a leading role to be able to induce change and to stimulate creativity and innovativeness by encouraging new ideas. And the reason we are talking about all these things, it's because we believe as a leader, you have to really have the power within so that it will be okay for you to actually share power with other people. And when it is easy for you to share power with other people, then you can stimulate their creativity, encourage new ideas without fear or insecurity. Wow. So this is our last function, controlling. Now we have done planning, organizing, staffing, leading or directing or coordinating, and now we are on controlling, which is our fifth function of management. Now, this function of management, we usually say it mirrors the planning function. And that is why people will say things like planning and controlling are two sides of the same coin. So the controlling function works in liaison with the planning function. The planning function tells us about the future. The controlling function is we are at the future. We want to see whether what we have achieved is consistent with what we had planned for. So the controlling function is the process of setting standards and reviewing the actual performance against the set standards so as to take corrective. Sorry about that. That's not collective action. It is corrective action in case of deviation. So, and that deviation could be either on the positive or on the negative. It could be on the positive in the sense that you have bypassed the expectations, or negative in case it is under. Now, when it is on the positive, maybe you had set very low standards. So if you've set very low standards, then it becomes easy for you to bypass them. So it's very important when you're dealing with the control function to be able to know this deviation, what could be, why has it actually happened? So these are the activities. You set standards of performance of activities. How will you know that you are actually performing? And that is what you're talking about in the planning role when we talked of the objective. When you say you want to expand the market, for example, how will you measure that you've actually expanded? What percentage will you give that kind of expansion? Maybe how many shops should you open? You need to have a standard or a measure. Or will you have a certain amount of profit or a certain sales volume? You have to come up with a measure of how you're going to measure your performance of activity. And then, of course, you measure that performance against the standard with the aim of taking some corrective actions. So these are types of control systems. We have those that are quantitative. We have those that are qualitative. Those that are quantitative include time, revenue, etc. Say, for example, as an organization, I would wish that people come to work on time. So when I introduce a time stamp, and anytime somebody comes to work, they clock in, then I'm using time as a control system. Or revenue, when I have a budget or an income statement, and I actually say, by the end of the year, this is our projections for financials. We usually have that in many of the business plans. Now, when I come and I find out whether did we bypass or did we meet our projections, then that becomes a quantitative measure. But also we have qualitative measures, things that are not quantifiable, like loyalty of employees, customer loyalty, cooperativeness, safety of workers. So some of the time we can get data through surveys, through observation, through seeing quantifiable things like retention of employees, maybe things to do with customer loyalty, how many of our customers are loyal to us. Those are qualitative measures. So why do we do the control function? We do the control function so that organizations can give uncertainty to detect if there are any irregularities. Maybe you have set very low standards, so that becomes an irregularity. To identify opportunities, probably there are gaps that you can take advantage of. To handle complex situations, and to decentralize authority. I would wish that you review this a little bit more, find out which kind of controls would you have for each of these functions. Now, let us tie it all together. So these are the functions of management. So we start with planning, determining courses of action, organizing, leading. Of course, there's the staffing, then you lead, then you control. And all along, there's the coordinating, planning, organizing, directing. So, and these steps feed onto each other. So that marks the end of management functions. I look forward to having another series of classes with you. I would wish to hear your feedback about the learning that you're having on this channel. And I look forward to more engagements. If you would wish to get in touch with me, that's my LinkedIn page, and that is the YouTube channel. Thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful time. Till we meet again. Goodbye.